it's me, RB. And also my cat Chico. He is next to me right now. He might start causing problems. He's kind of the worst. But that's okay. First of all, thank you to everyone who subscribed already based on my really horrible 6-minute intro. That's cool. I appreciate that. When my thumbs aren't strapped into these braces and aren't in excruciating pain, I will hopefully be able to play video games and do more entertaining things than just yammer about stuff. But I got a better mic. It was free. That's nice. It's plugged into my phone. It's very jank. But we're going to keep going. So thanks for being here. And today I'm going to talk about just in general being an artist on the internet. And there goes my cat and my other cat fighting under the door. Sorry if you hear horrible things. Yep, there they go. There's a lot that goes along with being an artist on the internet specifically that you don't have to deal with if you're not on the internet. And in fact, it kind of makes things more difficult. It's very frustrating. And a lot of it comes from most of what the problem is having a mindset that stems from, oh my god, my cats are clawing each other through the door. Chico, go out there. Go. There he goes. He just kicked the microphone. I'm so sorry. It stems from approaching things that really require a more professional mindset with a very, very amateur mindset. And there's a few topics. I'm going to try not to talk for a super long time about it, but there's a couple of things that make it harder on people. The biggest one, which I will get into, is the phrase "not safe for work," which is quite possibly the most useless and damaging phrase I think anyone ever could have invented for labeling suggestive and explicit content. There's also things like even just general improving on the internet, like improving your art and getting feedback from people in art communities. A lot of people tend to go in circles. They'll ask the wrong questions, which is more important than your actual skill level. They ask the wrong questions, and people who also have never asked the right questions will then give their input to try to answer it. And it perpetuates this weird... Most people don't like their art. They don't really know what they're trying to do. They don't know what they're aiming at. They're never satisfied with it in a deeper sense. Of course, you're never really going to be satisfied with every detail of it. That's what improving is for. But even that's something you start to accept when you develop the more advanced or professional sort of mindset. Again, this is more about your attitude than your skill level, but your skill level does tend to reflect your attitude. So they're a little combined. They're a little the same thing. But the mindset is mostly what I like to talk about. That's the important thing in general, in life. And for this, it makes a difference between, being just another internet artist versus someone that people really want to look at and go, oh my god, how'd they do that? Or like, wow, this person, they just seem so cool. I'm just drawn to them. It's just like magnetic. And it doesn't even have to be anything in particular, your subject matter, or again, your skill level. Not really. It doesn't have to do with that. It's all the attitude. And this all connects to other things I like to talk about, like manifestation and law of assumption and all that, but that's for another day. Regardless, I never fit in with art crowds. I just didn't. Maybe at first, when I started posting my stuff online in like 2007-ish, because I was really just drawing one thing. I was drawing a lot of Sonic fan art, and there was a Sonic community, which people now use the word fandom, which I don't like, as I said before in a prior video. And it wasn't... I don't know, I didn't I thought it was a bit weird when I tried to branch away. A lot of people reacted at me, and they were like almost offended or mad that I would want to draw other things. That was sort of my first experience with like fan art communities, or what's now fandoms, where it's like they kind of don't really give a shit about you, to be honest, to be blunt. They don't care about you unless you draw the one thing. Sometimes the one character, not even the whole series. They kind of just leave if you stop. And this is a cycle I've been stuck in for 2 decades online. And I couldn't figure out why I don't really seem to fit in with art crowds when I'm an artist, and I always have been. I've never really had friends, couldn't fit in with any communities, didn't work out, and I tried and tried for literally 2 decades, and it just hasn't happened yet. And I think that's why I kind of was drawn to the VTuber thing, where I can just be myself openly and just see who shows up. There's just a sort of, I don't know, when you have a different mindset about art, you don't really box yourself in like that. You don't want to do that, because you can appreciate the finer details with things. People will say sentences like my style, or is my art good, or what's my style called, how do I change my style. That's not really a thing. You develop little, there's like nuances to your decisions in your art, but it's not a style. It's not like a thing that you force yourself to develop to be different. Most of the time, people are just the people who have the either the best styles or just like your favorite art. They were most likely directly copying someone or something else, usually like a video game or a cartoon they really like or something. They're copying that art style to the best of their ability and referencing it repeatedly, tracing it until their hand gets the muscle memory, dissecting it, figuring out the shapes. And then whatever little tiny things like their color choices, their line width, their brush choices, little things like that, you can draw. Like, I base my art off of the Genshin art style now. Whereas before, I was totally lost in the attitude of, I have my style. And all that did was limit me, and it made it so I couldn't do anything, and everyone I drew looked ugly. I would always say, ew, this looks like I drew it. And what that meant was, ew, I can recognize the lines and shapes that I don't like, but for some reason I keep doing in this picture. And when I stopped doing that, and I just started directly copying the Genshin art style, I went from being in like a 10-year plateau where I hated everything and it looked bad and I couldn't get better for the life of me no matter what I studied, to over the course of like a month being like, oh shit, I really love my art. It looks really good. It's amazing. I'm the best. And like being all up my own ass about it. And it happened just really fast because I found something I wanted to aim at. And I just copied it and copied it and copied it and traced it and just kept doing that until I started to really internalize those shapes. And I would never say about myself or someone else, like, I like your style, I like my style. That's not really a thing that I would ever say. I would say something more specific, like your color palettes, or the lighting that you do. Lighting is something I want to work at. Different light sources, more dramatic light sources, and the rendering of that too. I feel like my painting isn't very good, but even that's something I would have to go copy from someone whose painting I think is good and see what they do and try to reverse engineer that and trace over it and like do exercises on my own time to figure that out. That's what professionals do. If you ask any professional or look at like videos of, I don't know, old video games or things like that, where it's like little interviews about how the artists did this or that, all the professional artists will tell you they copied something directly and then they changed it a little bit on purpose, or it just morphed that way on its own. and the thing with that is you don't need to pick one thing forever. Because here's a problem. This is an amateur mindset that I also had, and when I stopped doing this, I got better. Pretty much overnight, it felt like. It was within a couple of drawings, like over like a couple of weeks, I think. I drew a few things, and I was like, this doesn't even look like I drew it anymore. This looks like someone else drew it. I can't believe this is mine. It looks so good. Where you're like, but I want to draw like this, and I want to draw like that, and there's like these 10 people that inspire me, and I don't know what to draw like. I don't know what I want to draw like. And you don't have to just pick one forever, but you ought to pick one for now. Get really good at one. And then when you've gotten tired of it, or you see something else that you like better, add that to what you're doing. Learn that one. I've copied the Full Metal Alchemist art style directly. I can now copy the Genshin Impact art style directly. I draw things like Sonic characters and My Little Pony characters on model. I choose not to have one art style because it's constricting and, frankly, amateur. It doesn't help you. If I had to draw like Garfield right now, oh shit, never mind, I did once for a meme on, what the heck was that called? Drawception. I did that, and it looked like Garfield on model because it's just a collection of shapes. I would never try to figure out how to draw Garfield the way that my style was limited to just a few years ago. If you heard all that stomping, that was my cats. Oh my god, they're freaking out, attacking each other. When I get up and do things, they tend to get up and do things. It's all very weird. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh, yes, yeah. So, you don't have to pick, like, one thing forever and be like, oh, well, if I pick this art style to copy, that means I'm giving up that one. And it's like, no, just practice one for now. Just do one for now until you've got it, which could take a few weeks, it could take a few years. It depends on you, and it depends on your skill level and the art style you picked. But pretty much, if you're just tracing a lot of stuff and referencing constantly, you can copy any style super closely, almost perfectly. And then again, when you're tired of that, move on to a different one. And if you don't get tired of it, then keep going. But things like that, developing your own style is like a weird farce that really only exists on the internet and in like amateur art spaces. And you'll start to notice that people's art it all sort of looks the same. I can't tell most people's art apart because they're all telling each other the same things. And I wish I could individually like help all of them on like a more personal level, but instead I'm gonna do things like what I'm doing right now and record audios talking about it because, I don't know, hopefully more people will hear it one day and it will help someone. Because these are things I wish I would have known many years ago instead of like 1 year ago when I finally figured it out. So that's just, the art style thing really is like a bother. I don't like when I see people's like, rate my style, or what would you call my style? You don't have to label it. It doesn't need a name. You're just going to limit yourself with that. There is no rating on a scale of 0 to 10 based on what? Based on who's rating. You need to give me examples of what 0 through 10 would be then if you wanted me to pick a number. I'd have to have a chart of what each number is. And your style is going to be made up of so many different things. Your composition, your the facial expressions you tend to lean towards, because some people tend to favor certain ones, even if you can do them all. The lighting, like the direction of the lighting. Some people only do dramatic lighting. Some people only do like standard, like photo shoot kind of lighting, where it's like just highlighted so you can see all the details. And then other people like to do like lighting from behind, where it's really high contrast and dramatic. Those things you could all draw like Genshin Impact. We could all draw the same way. We could all draw exactly 1-to-1 Genshin Impact art style. But our color choices, our brush choices, our composition, the content, like what the characters would be doing, whether we prefer indoor, outdoor settings, like backgrounds, all those things are part of a style, and you can't really say that word in a way that's useful because it's just, it doesn't help. A lot of people have told me since I started copying Genshin Impact, like, I love your style. I don't know what they mean by that. I don't know if they mean my colors or my brushes or the fact that I draw like Genshin Impact. I don't know what that means. And it would be a lot more helpful and more meaningful. While I appreciate the compliment and I always say thank you, it would be a lot more helpful if they could specify. But I think because of the amateur mindset that sort of is everywhere, and again, I cannot stress enough, this has nothing to do with skill level actually. It's just an attitude. A lot of people just have the wrong, or I don't like to say the word wrong, but they have an unhelpful attitude towards art and towards a lot of things. And being really specific in a lot of cases, especially with art, is a lot more helpful. It's more helpful when you ask questions and you're specific, and it's more helpful when you give compliments and you're specific. And for critiques, if someone wants them, highlighting someone's positive qualities, what they did right, is infinitely more useful than telling them what they did wrong. Because if you keep telling them what they did right, they'll start to see it themselves, and then they'll start to pick up on what they're doing wrong themselves. Plus, it will bolster their confidence, not their doubt and their people already don't like their art, and this needs to stop. Just, it's not great to not like your own art. That sucks. I didn't like my art for 30 years. And it sucks. But now I love my art. It's great. There's a lot of things I want to improve, but I'm happy with everything I make. I am never like, oh, this looks like shit, I hate it. And then even if halfway through a picture I think it looks like shit, I always end up fixing the right things that makes it look good. And that's a critique I was given. My brother said that I keep fixing the right things, and it started to make me go, oh, I guess I am fixing the right things. I guess every time I showed him a progress picture, I was getting better. It did look better. I changed like this here and that there, and it looked better. Okay, so now that's a belief I have, that even if it looks like shit halfway through, somehow I'm just going to know to fix the right things and it's going to look good. So you want to be specific. You want to be specific in telling someone what they did right. You want to be specific in asking questions about what you should change. You want to be specific in giving compliments and things like that. And specifics, this is really very, very important for the not safe for work topic, which I have a lot of issues with, and I'm going to try to not flip my shit about because really it's annoying. So people like that phrase, and they love to say that, and I don't get it, and I don't really even know where it came from. It seemed like the mid-2010s Tumblr era sort of started a lot of this very vague amateur art mindset, and it's kind of lingering and it's causing issues. The not safe for work thing, you'll never hear me say that outside of a conversation like this, because it's nothing. It doesn't mean anything. I don't even know why we're talking about work. First of all, it's the internet. If you're on the internet at work, if you work at a place where you're not supposed to be playing around on the internet, you're going to get in trouble, whether you're playing Chips Challenge or looking at penises. You'll probably get in more trouble for the penises, but either way, you're going to get reprimanded for not doing your job, because that's just how it goes, and it's stupid, and I hate it. But that aside, there's an issue where, here I'm going to highlight the difference. The amateur way of saying things is not safe for work. People just say anything's not safe for work. It doesn't matter if it's lightly suggestive or very graphic, explicit sexual content. People will just say not safe for work either way. There's times where it's a fully clothed person just standing there. There is nothing suggestive about it. No sexual aura to the image. and people will tag it not safe for work. A lot of times just because it's an attractive woman, which is very messed up and a lot of reasons that I don't need to get into because I don't like talking about that stuff. But the point is that it's just so vague. People just tag anything as that. It's exhausting. It's very, very confusing. It's confusing and it's ambiguous, and it sucks for people who do draw very graphic, explicit sexual content, which I do on occasion. And then you see places that say we allow NSFW content, and I go, oh, okay, and I go over there and I want to post the things that I draw that are very lewd, and I get banned or yelled at, or I read all the fine print and it turns out I actually can't post anything I draw because what they meant, what that individual who wrote the rule meant by NSFW was like maybe a girl in a bikini. That's it. That's as far as it could go. And that's not helpful because there are like industry terms, there are real terms, there are descriptive terms that movies and television and things use. There are ratings for a reason that have descriptive things that you can look at and figure out what type of content is in that piece of media. So it's not confusing or jump scaring you with penises when you don't expect it. If at the very least you would start using terms like, because I'll do this, occasionally I'll say R18 just to imply that I draw adult content that is very graphic, but I prefer to say at the very least suggestive or explicit, because that's two very different things. And then you have a third category like artistic nudes, which really is neither. It's not trying to be suggestive, it's not trying to be sexual, it's just like a depiction of the human form in an inoffensive, non-sexual manner. And yet that gets lumped in with not safe for work as well, which is a huge issue for art and expression, which, the internet has become like more uptight and conservative than actual in-person real-world places, which is an active problem for society that, once again, I will not go into detail with because I will get angry. But if we would at least start using more specific terms, if you look at things like movies and television, they'll say in the corner, it'll be like TV 14, and it'll be like adult language, like profanity, smoking, light alcohol use, sexual themes, like suggestive stuff, but it's still for 14-year-olds as the rating. And there are reasons that those ratings were chosen by committees that all agree that this is okay for this age person. And then the stuff that's like rated R, and then there's like I don't know what like actual fucking stupid pornography is labeled, but at the very least there are terms like graphic nudity, explicit sexual content, even for like substance abuse it'll be like heavy alcohol use, it'll tell you that in the description. Adult language, there's specifics that need to be addressed. That way, when you go to watch like an R-rated movie, you go, well, is this rated R because there's a bunch of naked people having sex everywhere? Or is it rated R because they're using the word fuck every 60 seconds? Because either way, I don't want to see a movie like that, personally. But at least you know what you're getting into. When something's tagged NSFW on the internet, I don't know if it's going to be like a girl in a frilly dress who happens to have like a shapely figure, or if it's going to be hardcore porn. There is literally no distinction in that tag, and I really wish it would just go away. It is useless and I hate it. And again, for the people who do draw the more explicit stuff like myself, I don't know where to go. Because people will say that it's allowed, NSFW allowed here, but then you read the descriptions and the type of stuff that I draw is still not allowed. But because they don't use phrases like suggestive and explicit or graphic sexual content or something, they don't say anything that's actually helpful. I think that I'm allowed to post my stuff there, and then it turns out I'm not, and it causes a big problem. So there's just this sort of overall attitude with the way art is treated on the internet, where it's very amateur, and it's very, it's constricting because of things like that. We like to, well, I don't like to, I actively hate it. But a lot of people like to label everything and put it in a neat little box with a little bow on it and call it a day, but it doesn't work like that. That's why art is the way it is. It's always been controversial and ambiguous and confusing to people, to all of humanity, for thousands of years, because it's trying to express something that's like complex and inside of us, and then when we get it out in physical form, no one but the creator is going to actually understand it completely. And so we try to give labels to make it convenient, but our labels aren't good enough. They are just not good enough. And there used to be better terms, and they still exist. But in art circles on the internet, for some reason, people have just settled for the most vague, useless, unhelpful, and actively damaging terms and questions and things. I don't know why. Everyone just seems okay with it, but it's causing a whole lot of issues. There's always discourse. And it would be a lot better if we could be more specific when we ask things about the quality of our art, rather than saying, how's my style? And if we could label varying degrees of adult content more efficiently, that way people don't get jump scared by penises, or if they want to look at the penises, they know where to find them. Either way, it would be very helpful. And realize that things like this, it requires everyone who hears me right now, who agrees with me, if everyone just starts to do this, like, it would probably help new artists a lot more. And even older artists who've been doing this for a long time, like myself. Again, I don't know where to go on the internet with the questions that I have. I can't find tutorials that are of use to me. I can't find places that are safe to post the sexual content that I draw. I can't find people who understand what the hell I'm saying, because I'm thinking on a professional level and they're thinking on an amateur level, and we can't meet in the middle. There's friction there. There's just weird tension. It's like talking to someone. It's like literally two different languages. And this all it really takes is just looking at things a little differently, and realizing that just because you are an artist who posts your art on the internet doesn't make you an internet artist. You're more than that, and you can be more than that. The internet is just one place to post it because it's convenient. It's there. We have it in our pockets on our little rectangles that have everything on them. We're kind of glued to it now. You can just put it there and people find it, and it's nice. People found me through my stupid little video the other day. And cool. But that doesn't mean I have to be limited by what the general population on the internet says and does, including those in specific, like, art circles. Again, I don't participate in fandoms. I don't like anything that fandoms do at all. I don't like the way that characters are portrayed. I don't like that you're kind of expected to keep drawing the same shit over and over again. I don't even want to talk about it. I hate, like, I don't even want to talk about it. It's just the things that people do with characters that's so out of character, and they draw them weird, and it's just, like, unrecognizable. There's been so many times I've seen art of characters who I can't even identify that it is the character outside of the hashtag saying the character's name. And I'm like, at this point, you invented a different character. You redesigned them, you changed their personality, you're portraying them in a way that's completely inaccurate. It feels disrespectful, and as someone who is a fan of this character and this thing, I am not gaining anything from seeing art like this, from content like this. If I want to learn to draw this character in a more efficient way, these spaces aren't helping me. They're too again, it's just amateur is the only word I can say, because again, it is a mindset shift. It's not the skill level, it's a mindset. And I will keep saying that for people who think I'm just insulting bad artists. I would never do such a thing, because my art looked like shit for a long time. And in a lot of ways, still does. But you know what? That's okay. I'll figure it out. It's just the attitude is so important, and that's the thing people miss. They want to learn, but how's my style? How do I get better? How do I get better? How do I learn anatomy? I don't even get me started on that one. I hate when people just say learn anatomy. It's like really useless. Do this, do that, learn this, and it's always these physical things. They never tell you to approach it from a different attitude. But that's what's most important. And the specifics, whether it's for like adult content labels or how to improve certain things in your art, the specifics are what help. So if you're also an artist and you're on the internet and you found me and you're hearing this, and if you felt like stuck in your quality or frustrated and confused about things like NSFW, or you can't figure out why you don't quite fit in with people, it could just be that. It could be that you don't have that amateur mindset, and that's a good thing, because that means you can learn differently and change the way you draw and do stuff. And honestly, I just wish that other people start to figure this out so they can be happy with their art and actually express themselves properly and more fully, and not constantly be self-conscious and perpetuating the same weird stuff in the same art circles over and over and over again. Questions like, again, I think the one that I see the most is, how's my style, or how do I improve my style? That's the thing. If it's your style, no one can tell you how to improve it, because there's no references for you. If you're trying to invent something new, we can't help you, because if I go, hey, if I draw a picture of Arby, draw myself, and I'm like, hey, does this look like Genshin Impact art style? Well, gee, there's a whole library of Genshin Impact art for people to directly compare it to, and go, yeah, it looks pretty good. Or no, you this shape here or that there, you could change that. Like, how is my style, or how do I get better at it? You can't, in a way that's like, we can't tell you what's better or worse if it's your own. Like, if that's what you want to do, fine. But more likely than not, in fact, I'm going to go out on a limb and say 100% of the time, people aren't trying to invent their own styles. They just think they have to. Really, you became an artist because something caught your attention. There was something that you saw that made you go, oh my God, I want to do that too. And it could be like fantasy style paintings. It could be old Renaissance paintings or sculptures. It could be like a 1990s anime with the blown out colors from the weird way they exported it and put it on video. It could be, like, for me, it was Genshin Impact art. I went, you know what? That's nice. I think I want to draw like that. It could be anything. It could be Billy and Mandy. I don't care. But you saw something, and it made you want to draw. And somewhere along the way, you forgot and got lost in the internet circles where they tell you got to develop your art style and learn anatomy, and that doesn't do anything for anybody. Because those things develop on their own along the way. And really, you kind of just need to rediscover that, or go find a new one that you like more and copy it and keep copying it until you're satisfied with it. Satisfied enough with it that you go, you know what, I like how this turned out. Because there's always going to be the element of it where you're not satisfied, where you're like, I could have done better here, I still want to learn this. That's normal, and that's good. That means you have more that you get to learn and more things that you can go look for, even if it is frustrating and can't figure it out right now. But if you can at least get to the point where you say, you know what, I like this. That's it. That's the job of the artist, is express yourself and go, you know what, I like this. I like how that felt. I like how it looks. That's it. That is all you have to do. But 99.9% of artists are not there. They hate their stuff so much, and they hate themselves, and they're not satisfied because they're not expressing what it is they really want to get out. They're either too afraid or they've forgotten and got lost in the weird internet stuff. I don't really know what it's like now for very young people. And again, if you are very young people, if you are not an adult, don't listen to me. I talk about lewd stuff and I draw lewd stuff. Go away. But this is an adults only space. But I don't know what it's like for people who are young and like grew up more directly on the internet, on like modern internet with social media and like stupid Tumblr and all that. I don't know what it's like to have that like in your youth, in your very young childhood youth, and see something on there and go, I want to draw like that. But it's still the same. It's still like you probably saw something somewhere that was more specific. And again, I recommend finding an official published work. Something like a cartoon or a video game or something. Not like one guy on Tumblr whose art you kind of like. Try to find something else that's more... How do I say? There'll be more references for you. There'll be more things that you can ask about. It's going to have a clear direction. Most people don't have a clear direction on what they're trying to get at. They don't know what they're trying to copy. They don't know what their end goal looks like. They're just drawing for the sake of drawing, which is cool, but then they're unsatisfied because they don't know what they're doing. So just try to ask more specifics. Be like, I'm trying to draw, I don't know, this like winter themed picture. What kind of color palettes should I pick here? Anyone know any good CSP brushes? Or I'm trying to convey this with this character. What type of poses or composition should I put? What kind of lighting would convey this mood? Like, just more specific. That's all. And that's going to go a lot farther and help you a lot more than rate my style, which just opens you up for like you're either going to get judgment that you don't need, or you're going to get like fake like ass pats that aren't like a real compliment. They're not going to help you in the long run. And what you want is like actual real tangible things that you can understand and convey and study when you need to. That's kind of the gist of it, is that being an artist on the internet has sort of become very weird. It's become very it's become more complicated than it needs to be, which is again strange, because by being so vague with things, people have overcomplicated it. Because it should be a lot easier to improve, and it should be a lot easier to tell if the content you're looking at is for adults or not. It just, the whole thing should be a lot easier. And the way to do that actually is to get more specific. And I think I'm going to keep doing this, and it's been working for me. And if it's literally required by a group and they have stupid NSFW and they're like, tag this, it's not safe for work, then I'm going to have to do it. But like, I would never use that term on my own. I will never tag my stuff as that. You will not see that from me, because I don't want to perpetuate that. That needs to go. It needs to be more specific than that. And if anyone were to ever ask me like, how's my style? I would have to counter that with more questions like, what do you mean? What are you asking for? Do you want to know if your colors are good? Do you want to know if your shapes are good? Do you want to know if your lines are too sketchy? Do you want to know? What do you want to know? Like, that's when you ask a question, there's usually a second question underneath of it that you're too afraid to ask. And there's an answer that you already want that you don't want to admit that you already want. There was a time, hold on, I've been yapping too much and my voice is getting tired. There was a time, not that long ago, like a year and a half ago, where I literally just needed, I was so disgusted by my art, I couldn't even look at it. I cried every day about it. I couldn't look at it. I was doing weird things to try to get through drawing. I was turning the screen brightness all the way down on the thing I was drawing on. I was like covering most of the screen with my other hand so I couldn't see it, and then it gave me like a sick, nauseous feeling, and I would just end up giving up and deleting it and crying for like hours. Like, I just could not stomach the sight of my own art. And that sounds so crazy to me now, because it was only like a couple months after that I started to be like, you know what? Now I love my art. And it's just because I got more specific about what I wanted to copy and how I wanted to draw. But at that time, I literally said that I was like, you know what? Oh my God, it's super hot in here, by the way, talking. I have to sit in my closet because that's the best place to record audio. It gets very warm in here. I literally said, I was like, I need people to just pretty much just tell me that my art looks good, that it doesn't look as horrible as I feel that it does. I basically just needed a self-esteem team, and I acknowledged that, and I admitted that to the people that I asked for help, and that was good, and it got me through that, and it led me to like getting more confidence and like getting more specific feedback again from like when my brother said like, oh, you always fix the right things, like you always fix things that maybe didn't need fixing, but then when you fixed it, it looked 10 times better. Like stuff like that. And I started to develop a natural sense of confidence because I was really specific and honest about what I was actually asking for. Don't just ask people like, how's my style? Is it good? It's like, what do you want to know specifically? You really need to be more specific. So that's kind of, I should shut up because I've talked now too much without much breath in between, and now my voice is tired, and I'm tired, and it's bedtime. Meaning it's 7:30 a.m. because I'm nocturnal. So I'm going to bed. And just being an artist on the internet, very confusing, very weird place. Just try not to get caught up in the way that other internet artists talk, because frankly, it's not very helpful. If you want to get better, if you really seriously want to get better at your art, and most importantly, you want to really like your art and actually be able to convey the things that you inside of you've been like dying to convey, but you just couldn't figure it out, stick to professionals, stick to learning from professionals. Don't go in art circles and places where there's just like mediocre amateur, like average digital artist who hasn't actually done anything with their art beyond like get commissions on the internet, which if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But this is a different type of attitude that I'm talking about. Like when I wanted to learn more about animation, I went straight to someone who knows all of the professional stuff about animation and how anime is produced, and even showed me some like raw frames of anime, and like I didn't know that anime was basically just pixel art with filters over it. And when I started doing that, I was like, oh my god, this is how you make it look like anime. Oh my god, you really do only need 8 frames a second. Any more is a waste. Oh my god, this. Oh my god, that. And like all of a sudden I was animating like professionally, and I didn't even know I could do that. And my first try, I did a really good job. Like, holy hell. So try to be as specific as possible with labeling your art, asking questions about it, and giving compliments. Try to learn from professionals. Copy stuff directly. Literally, I can't tell you how many pictures of like Genshin characters I traced over to figure out how the fuck to draw myself like this in this picture here. I had to trace so many officials and stuff, it's crazy. But then I started to get it and I started to understand it. Now I can draw RB totally fine. And I don't even like need to really reference the Genshin art if I just want to do a quick sketch. Which that too is why you don't want to develop your own style in that sense, because if you reference your own art and you keep doing that, you are going to stray so far off track from where you started. Your art's going to get really weird, and I've seen this happen to a lot of people, and this happened to me, where you add one little line here, and then the next picture you draw, you add another little line. And then 10 pictures later, you've now got like 30 lines on the face that weren't there, and your character looks real ugly and weird and like old, and you're putting too many details, and you're like, why is it so hard to draw faces now? I've only added 400 lines from the first time I started. You don't want to do that. You need a sort of control group for your referencing, which is why referencing something that is like, again, I usually go for something that's more of like a professional finished product, like a finished video game or an anime or something, because you can use the official artwork as your control group, as your like your base point. So if you start to question if you're drawing your stuff properly, you don't reference your own art, you go back and reference the official art, because that's not going to change. If you reference the same picture over and over and over again for the shapes or the colors or whatever part you're copying, you're always going to do it right, because it's the same picture. It didn't change. Whereas if you keep referencing your own art, like as it goes on, like if I draw RV today and I reference that one tomorrow, and then the one I draw tomorrow I reference the next day, like 3 years from now I'm not even going to recognize her anymore. Too many little things will have changed. Too many little lines and shapes and choices will have changed. People have even made jokes about this with stuff in Genshin Impact. Like I remember early on, like 5 years ago, Albedo's hair kept getting bigger and bigger with like every picture. And it's probably because the artist who drew each one referenced the last one that was drawn, and each prior artist made his hair fluffier and bigger. So you have to be very careful with the references you use. You have to cultivate a very specific set of references for yourself that you want to base everything on. If you really want to choose a direction that you're going and you want to stick to it, you don't want to veer off of that path too much. And, you know, like a little deviation is fine, because for one, you're a person, you're going to make mistakes, but those mistakes are not really mistakes in a bad way. They're going to like add little nuance and personality to each picture, but you want to always return to that base point, so you don't start having wonky, super inconsistent art that changes style every freaking time you draw them. I remember I would be given references a long time ago when I would do commissions. I don't do that anymore, please don't ask. I would get references where each one was drawn in like completely different ways. In the character's hair, they'd give me 5 pictures of a character and the hair looked different at each one, and I was like, which one am I supposed to draw? What do I do? Like, what is this? And it was all supposed to be the same, but they just weren't consistent. They didn't really reference. They didn't try. You gotta reference, and you gotta trace, and you gotta copy. Literally, it's so boring in the moment, but it's so worth it, because then you can just draw the same high quality thing that you want to draw over and over and over again forever. And that's cool. That's worth it. And then you can be happy and feel satisfied every time you draw. Be specific in your art. If you're going to be an artist and you're going to be on the internet, be very specific. Be specific with everything you do. Again, your labels, your questions, your compliments, the things you look for, your references. Pay attention. Look at the finer details. You're an artist. Look at the details. Don't ask vague blanket questions for a skill that requires like an eye for detail. You need to be specific. So that's kind of all I really wanted to talk about. It just being on Reddit the past couple of days. I've never done that. I've never been in art circles, post like, I don't know, when's the last time I really interacted with artists? I think I stopped again around the like mid 2010s Tumblr era, because I didn't like how things were going. I didn't like people's attitude towards art, and even at that point I still had the amateur mindset, but there was just like a sense I picked up on I just didn't like. But the past few days being on Reddit gave it a chance, because Twitter has been hiding all of my posts from my followers for 2 years for some reason. Thanks, Twitter. I kept seeing questions that were like physically painful to read. They made me upset. They either made me very frustrated or they made me feel very sad for this person. And I didn't want to have to leave 58,000 paragraph comments on every single individual post. For one, I can't type because my thumbs are damaged. And I've got to have these stupid braces on them for several months probably. But two, it's just like I didn't want to go in and start stuff, so I'd rather do it here on my own channel and just have an overall like, hey, if you're an artist on the internet, maybe try to have this attitude about things. It'll help you more. That's really my message, I guess, today. That's what I want to talk about. And again, hopefully I can, my hands hurt, but hopefully I can try to play a game soon. I'll just record it on PS5 or something, so I'm not just talking myself to death. Which could only be up to an hour gameplay because of how the recording works. But that's okay. I can't play that long anyway with my hands like this. I can't use my thumbs for control sticks. I have to hold the controller really like a weird freakazoid crab situation. I can't use my thumbs at all. So I literally have to like use the control sticks with my fingers and try to get the shoulder buttons with my pinkies. It's not a good time. And I can only play for a few minutes before I have to take a break. So we'll see. I might be able to do that. I hope this was useful for you guys. I hope other people find it. If you know of anyone this might help, people who've been struggling with their art and they seem to be stuck in like the same circles, doing the same things, they're plateauing, something like that. Maybe share this with them, maybe it'll help. Again, I'm not sure, everyone's different, not everyone's going to have my same attitude. Not everyone's going to want to have a professional mindset, and although that's strange to me, I understand that that's not everyone's goal. But if this like sparked something within you, if you went, oh my god, I never thought of that, please let me know, because I really hope that this is of any use to someone, because I wish that I would have thought of this stuff or been told this stuff years and years ago, because it really would have helped and I wouldn't have stagnated for so long. There was like 5 solid years there where I didn't draw like a single picture, I don't think, because I hated my art so badly and I was just so stuck. And I literally just like a year and a half ago got out of that. I didn't draw for 5 years, and then all of a sudden I was drawing like every friggin' day just because I changed my attitude a bit and started really seriously referencing and tracing and copying the Genshin art until I figured it out. And because I knew my like biggest issue was with drawing eyes, which like I only have one eye. I have this eye patch. I don't have to draw 2 eyes. That's helpful. But I didn't even want to draw one. So I started with Dottore, who doesn't have eyes. And I went, okay, that's who I'm going to use. He's my favorite. So that's who I'm going to use. And I did that, and then I drew RB and Dottore, and was like, okay, well now I only have to draw 1 eye between 2 characters, and it just like kind of snowballed from there, and it changed everything for me. It literally just, I cannot believe how much I like my art now. I really can't. It's amazing, and I'm so happy, and my stupid fucking thumbs better heal so I can draw again, because, man, I really like art. I like art, and other people should like their art more, and art's cool, and everyone should just like be happier with their stuff. And a lot of the times, well, 100% of the times it's an attitude problem, but most of the time, if it is a skill problem, it stems from an attitude problem anyway. So you have to approach the way you're doing things differently. And again, even stuff that's like not about improvement, but it's just about categorization, like phrases like not safe for work or not useful, because the specifics are really important to people. Again, some people are totally fine with like, I don't know, shirtless guy with unzipped pants and girl in bikini, but they're not okay with like really intense graphic sexual content. And to label both the same way is going to cause a lot of harm and confusion, and it sort of ostracizes people who are on the like further end of that lewd spectrum like me, where it's like, oh, I'm allowed here, and then they go, oh, no, you're not, that's too lewd. And it's like, well, then why did you say you allowed this? And it's not that they said they allowed specifically what I was drawing, it's just that they were being very vague in what they were allowing. So I hope this sort of, I hope I didn't ramble too much. I hope it was at least somewhat clear what my point is, that like, be specific, that's it. Be specific and like your art and do whatever. But it is all about mindset. It's about the way you look at it and the way you approach it. And I know this sucks because it can be isolating, but a lot of the times getting out of or limiting your exposure to those online art communities is going to be the best thing for you, because you're going to all keep copying each other and asking the same questions, and you're all going to be stuck on the same plateau forever, and it sucks. And that's actually why I mentioned in like 2007 I was drawing a bunch of Sonic art. That's why I stopped, and that's why a bunch of people left me, and they were mad at me, and they were like, why aren't you drawing Sonic anymore? And I was like, because I want to learn to draw human beings now. I want to learn to draw people. I struggled with that. That's why I stuck with Sonic for so long since I was a kid, is because I couldn't draw people. And then at one point I could only draw girls. Oh my god, if you look at my art now, it's like mostly boys. It's like all naked men. At one point I had to deliberately sit there and go, that's it, I'm gonna figure out how to draw men. And because at the time MGS4 and DMC4 had come out, and I really wanted to draw Dante and Snake, and I couldn't do that. So I had to learn, and I couldn't ask like people on DA, like DeviantArt, how to do that. Because even back then, before like all this weird online attitude stuff really started, even back then, the tutorials and the explanations weren't very useful. And as always, the person I had to go to was my brother, because he always had the professional attitude about it. And that's made the biggest difference for me. And I think for him too, and probably anyone who's chosen to have that attitude about it. So I highly recommend that. You know, if you either approach it the wrong way or try it out for a while and turns out you're not having any fun, then I guess disregard this whole video. But I think it's worth trying, especially if you feel you've been stuck or confused and you can't figure out why you don't like your art. Things like that. So I hope that helps. I don't know how often I'm going to post videos. This is, again, still new to me. But at least I have a mic that doesn't suck. And it's, it's plugged into my phone. It looks very funny. I have this giant mic with this big metal arm that I have folded all the way down. It's just on the floor. And it's plugged into my phone with an adapter. But, we got it. We're good. We're figuring it out. Today I learned that I can put a PNG and audio over a video that I saved from PS5. I'm very proud of me for putting 3 file types together. And I didn't set my phone on fire. So that means I can play a bit of a game and upload that at some point when my hands feel better. So I will see you guys next time, and I hope this was helpful. Bye!